My name is Tyler Gayhoff with Integrated Pest Management.
Hi, my name is Andrew Gayhoff.
So we're going to talk about small flies today. Small flies are drain flies, phorid flies, fruit flies, and fungus gnats, among other things. And each one of those is a family that has dozens or hundreds of different species within it. But we're just going to call them all small flies for today's purposes.
Why do you not apply pesticides like you do for other pests?
That's a great question. Same goes for fly lights. The pesticides and the insect fly traps only work on the adults. As far as a real solution, we need to get to the source of the problem, which is eliminating the breeding sites where the eggs and the larvae are. Andrew, what's your process when you go into an account that's complaining about small flies? Where do you start?
The first thing that I always start with is an inspection. And my most important tool for any inspection is going to be a good flashlight. Often, especially behind a bar, you'll find areas that don't have a lot of access. People don't always pull the ice machine out or the refrigerator out. And when you look at these areas, there might be a hidden drain, there might be decomposing organic matter, or any sort of issue that's the root of the problem. So getting on your hands and knees and doing a thorough inspection is always the most important first step when it comes to small flies. If we took a good pesticide and knocked down all the adults, we would see a fly-free environment for a day if we're lucky. These flies have such a short life cycle that new individuals will hatch out within 12 to 24 hours with some species, and we are just going to have that same population right back where it was. Do you ever find small flies in your fly lights when you're doing a service?
Absolutely. We've added fly lights for large flies in a lot of accounts, and then found that there are actually more small flies than large flies. And really all that does is serve as an indicator that there's a problem that needs to be solved, either sanitation or moisture or structural. The fly lights themselves will only catch some of the adults, but there will still be several other adults that bother guests and customers, and it won't break the cycle. There's adults that have laid eggs way before they ever got into the insect light trap, and those eggs are going to hatch and they're going to turn into larvae, and those larvae will turn into adults, and they will likely repeat the cycle before they get caught in the fly light. So even though we might have hundreds or thousands of small flies in an insect light trap, unfortunately the patrons at the bar or the guests in the restaurant are still going to see small flies. Even if we continue adding fly lights until they cover the entire restaurant, the cycle continues until we somehow break the larva cycle.
What would you say are some of the hot spots when it comes to finding small flies in a bar?
I'd say the hot spots would be areas where it never dries. So areas where moisture is a problem, and due to the normal course of business, it's just not possible for it to dry out. Those areas must remain clean all the time. There's also short-term areas where maybe there's a temporary leak, or it just didn't get squeegeed properly. Perhaps the floor is shifted a little bit and it doesn't drain into the drain the way it used to. But stepping away from the bar, there could be a mop closet that might have some ongoing moisture issues. If the mops get hung up, then those are able to dry every day. There could be maybe a trash can that gets emptied before the bar is closed and gets a few more items in it at night, and then the next morning that fruit or other items have sat in there overnight. So a lot of times it's not what you'd think it would be. It doesn't look dirty at first glance.
How often do you go into a bar where they tell you that they dump bleach or hot water or sanitizer down the drains every night, so that can't be the problem?
Well, it happens a lot. And a lot of times drains aren't the problem. It's just kind of what a lot of folks in the industry have been conditioned to look at first, which isn't a bad thing because it's very common for drains to be the issue. But you start with the easy, the low-hanging fruit, and you clean your drains, and if the problem doesn't resolve itself, it must be something else. So back to the flashlight, take a look around, contact the pest professional, and see if they can help point us in the right direction. I've seen grout lines that the grout's worn out or caulking is missing around a drain on a floor. It's about 1/8 an inch wide and a couple inches long, and it's big enough to support a pretty large population of small flies. So it's probably a little less than a square inch.
So outside of your classic hotspots, drains, plants, where do you find small flies that are causing a problem in a business?
One of the things that people always look at is the soil overwatered? Sometimes that basin where the extra water goes is obscured with decoration, or it's just hard to see. That can be a spot that's overlooked often. Mop closets, you get done mopping, we're supposed to hang the mops back up so that the mop head can dry out. The eggs of small flies hatch in about 24 hours. So as long as whatever we're using that gets wet dries within that 24-hour period, we'll be fine. Well, if those are left in the mop basin, then that can become a breeding site, even though that mop gets used every day because it's not drying out. I have seen a drainage line from the condensation from an air conditioner providing enough moisture for small flies. Is it possible to have small flies and not have a sanitation problem?
If we were to see a bar that had small flies but no sanitation issues in the drains, around the bar, or anything like that, there could be an issue with something else on the structure. It's very possible that there could be a roof leak that's causing water to enter the building where it shouldn't, or there could be some other structural problem with the building that's causing a drain fly issue or something along those lines that has nothing to do with sanitation, but rather building maintenance.
What should a general manager or the point of contact at a facility be implementing to help prevent small flies?
There's no one-size-fits-all solution for small flies. The best thing to do is to create a customized checklist for your facility. On this checklist, you can place things like clean the bar mats, check the drains, empty the trash or small trash cans that may got missed. Watering plants or not watering plants could be a part of this, but designing a system that's put in place by one person that's in charge of all this to go through and just make sure everything gets done on a regular rotation. It's always a good idea to have one person in charge of this checklist so that person can receive all the reports from everybody else that's working and then communicate with the pest control professional once a problem does arise. What are the top things you would recommend to somebody that finds small flies in their bar or facility?
We should start looking at places they could be reproducing. It's normal for small flies to come in on deliveries. Produce, onions, bananas, things like that frequently bring in small flies, and they also can come from outside, things like fungus, gnats. So the first thing would be to take a look around, get a flashlight, look for areas that don't dry out. Those would be potential breeding areas, and they're usually within a few feet of where you typically see the small flies. From there, if it's an easy fix, clean the drain, then clean the drain. If it's not, then call a pest management professional who takes care of the general pest control. Take some pictures, send some videos, ask some questions, and find out if there's something more that can be done. Frequently, it's not a pesticide type solution. It's not adding a fly light solution. Frequently, it's just digging a little bit deeper and finding out what these are and how to break the larva cycle so that the adults don't create another generation. There has to be a place where the small flies are laying eggs in order for the small flies to continue to exist. Yes, some can come in on deliveries, some might fly in from outside, but in order for there to be a real problem, there has to be a sanitation issue.